COVID-19, better known as coronavirus, has spread throughout the world. Symptoms of this respiratory disease may include fever, cough, and shortness of breath. These symptoms may show up 2 to 14 days after exposure. If you are experiencing these symptoms and have come into contact or are in an area with an ongoing outbreak, please call a hotline and/or consult with a physician. Clean and disinfect high-touch surfaces. For more information, please visit cdc.gov/COVID-19. Thank you.
This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
You are listening to In a City Like Yours, a semi-monthly podcast featuring interesting people with interesting life stories. This podcast may contain language and/or subject matter not suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
I'm your host, Michael G. Moore. Please visit our website at inacityLikeYours.com. That's INACITYLIKEYOURS.com for links to our social media, all popular podcast platforms, and links of interest pertaining to all episodes. On this episode, Russell briefly relates the story of his first love. Then we talk about his independent film career. After the break, we hear from Jeff, who played Alex Kintner, the boy eaten by the shark in the first Jaws movie. Jeff never made another film, but this role continues to earn him money and admiration from the many loyal Jaws fans from around the world. Here are their stories.
Okay, my name's Russell Rapp, and I live in New Jersey. And I have a story that doesn't have to do with art at all. It's about the first time I fell in love. Fell in love with this girl back in high school, junior, senior year, around there. That was like 2005. And so that's the first time I fell in love. I fell in love with this girl, and you know, it was like childhood sweethearts. We did everything together. Went to the movies. I remember our first kiss in front of her house. I remember I was driving a moped at the time to school, back to school, to her house, stuff like that. It changed my life for the better. You know, the first time you fall in love, you always remember that. So, it changed my life for the good. There was times we would go to the movies, go out on dates, take her out to eat, and stuff like that. One thing I remember about the relationship, was there was a time when I got mushrooms, and I wanted to trip with my girlfriend. So we went to a local park, and we ate these mushrooms, and we started seeing different things. And I remember we were there at night, and she was just staring into this river for like hours. She just couldn't move. She just kept staring at the water. I remember my buddy came. I called my buddy. He came to pick us up, and then we started driving around. It really opened my eyes, because you know, during a hallucinogenic trip, you just see different things, and after the trip, you kind of see outside the box a little bit. So yeah, those are the things we used to do, and it's changed my life. I'm always going to remember that. So
How you say it changed your life? In what way did it change your life?
Well, after going out with this girl, I knew what it was like to be in love. And, I knew what it was like to get hurt, get into fights with a significant other. And the first time is completely new to you. That's how it was. But after that relationship, I knew what it was all about to be in love. So
Yeah, what to expect and what to shoot for. So how long did you date her?
we dated for 2 years.
Oh, so that was a pretty significant period in your life then, for 2 years. And you just through high school, or was it in high school and out of high school that you dated her?
We were just in high school. She wanted to keep going out, and when I found out that I was getting into college, I was moving to Philadelphia, I kind of broke it off with her, because I remember I told her, I said, I want my freedom. So she was hurt by that. That was really it. We've stayed in touch throughout the years, though. I mean, I just talked to her like last month, so we kept in touch.
Yeah, that was my next question, if you still talk to her. So how did that relationship affect your next relationship?
Well, my next relationship, I would say, would be my next important relationship, like a serious relationship. That would be probably the first time I was engaged, and that was years later. That was actually probably 5 or 6 years later, with another girl. And I just knew what not to say, what to say, stuff like that. So it changed a little bit of how I went about talking to other girls and stuff like that. And the next relationship, it actually turned into an engagement. I proposed to this girl, and we got engaged. We were together for about 4 years, and then she started sleeping around on me, so that didn't work out. So
Let's go ahead and move on to your film career. Now, you said you're a director in film, or a producer?
I'm a writer, producer. Yeah.
Why don't you talk a little bit about some of your past projects, and then move us on forward to what you have going on now?
Okay. Past projects are all on YouTube right now. I have a channel on YouTube. All you gotta do is type in Russell Rapp, my name, and you'll find it. I remember the first time I got a video camera, I was living with my mom, and she has this like screened in porch in the back. And I remember it was raining, and I got my video camera out and just started recording the backyard. And I got close-ups of these leaves on the trees and leaves on plants and stuff like that, with water dripping down, flowers, stuff like that. So it was kind of like a little nature video I made. That was the first video I ever made that went up on YouTube. That was probably 2006, 2007, something like that. And then I liked it. I liked the whole recording, editing, presentation, the whole thing. So I was really artistic too. Like all my life, I've been really artistic. Like, I started painting really young. Like I still have a oil painting. It's probably like the first or second thing I painted it's a praying mantis. It's like black and white oil paint. So I've been really artistic, creative kind of person all my life. I think I like film because it combines all sorts of art together into one medium. You know, just coming up with an idea, you write an idea, you can sketch it out, draw pictures, you can make a storyboard, you could draw more pictures, and then camera angles and descriptions and stuff like that. And there's a lot that goes into it, and I like that kind of thing because I'm really creative and I like working with all sorts of mediums. And film kind of brings all those mediums together in a way, and that's why I like it. So over the years, I kept making videos here and there, just little videos, some comedy, music videos. I have short films, stuff like that. So all through these years, I've been building a portfolio really on YouTube. And now I have a little over 100 videos on this one channel on YouTube, and they're all different. I've been asked before what kind of genre I like to work with. For me, it's a bunch of genres I like to work with. All like not just one type of genre, like a horror, for example. I've done a horror film. I've done it. It's called Jersey Devil. It's a short film. And Power Child, the film I'm working on now, is more like a psychological thriller. But I have other ideas that are different genres. They're all completely different from one another. One's a sci-fi, one's a drama, one's like in the future, a little bit futuristic. One is, you know, another science fiction. So they're all different genres. You know, working on this film now, Power Child, I've been coming up with other ideas. I started writing a sci-fi space epic. I'm like halfway done writing this feature. I keep coming up with new ideas like almost every day. So
You obviously have actors. Where do you pull your talent from?
All the talent is from Facebook. I've done all this networking on Facebook over the past couple of years, and I've met all the actors and crew on Facebook. You know, it's a great tool to work with people on Facebook because there's so many groups, film buffs, film fans. There's so many groups that are involved with filmmaking on Facebook, and it really helped a lot using Facebook to meet all these different people.
I'm trying to understand. Do you have these people physically in your movie, or you just use their voice? And this is what you're doing is more animation type of film.
No, I have people that I've met up with and we're on set. There's Alexandra Pasucci. She's one of the actresses. She's like a co-star. I have Eileen Sullivan. She did a voiceover for me for the White Rabbit character. We met up together and we went to the studio and I recorded her voice, and she did a terrific job. So there's some voiceover, there's some interaction with other actors, and it's like a narration sometimes too. So the main character Cal, I'm playing Cal, and you hear his narration like throughout the movie.
Have you released any of these outside of YouTube? You know, like say for festivals or film festivals or anything like that?
My Jersey Devil film that I did in college, that was at the Montclair State Film Festival. I remember I got a standing ovation for that after it was premiered at the festival.
That had to feel good.
Yeah, that felt really good. I was shocked. I was like, everybody stood up and started like clapping. I was like, what is good? I was like really surprised, but it felt really good at the same time. But other than that, I haven't really been in any big or important film festivals at all.
Have you had a pretty good response on your YouTube channel?
I get views. I get a lot of views, but I haven't had any messages or anything like that. And it's just a little weird because I've been posting videos on Facebook and on YouTube for a long time, and I get very little feedback from anybody.
Yeah, I've discovered that as well with podcasts. This podcast obviously is not true crime, and that's really the hot topic in podcasts. And people who like true crime tend to interact with the podcasters. But for what I do, I rarely get any interaction. So it's probably the same thing with you. It's just the genre that and the type of people you draw don't really converse a lot.
I think it has to do with like how aggressive you are with like sharing and publishing and stuff like that. Like I see people doing videos almost every day, and sometimes multiple times a day they'll be posting videos. And I think the more aggressive you get with it and the more you interact with other people, like kind of like you have to almost start the conversation for people to be like interested and then have them reply back to you. So I found that comedy is good with that. You know, you put comedy show on YouTube or Facebook, and I think people feel more comfortable talking to you about stuff like that.
What else do you have going on that you'd like to let us know before we close out?
Well, I just want to thank Steve Joyner because he really got the ball rolling for me with all these podcasts. Also, I found a distributor. A distributor hit me up on Facebook. He's interested in the film. He wants to try to make it happen for me. Also, I found a producer just a couple weeks ago, and we started hanging out. Lucky for me, he's on the East Coast. He's actually like in New Jersey, just like me. So that was really cool to find him. So those are a couple big things that have been going on.
Hi, it's Audra
Jason,
and Matt
from Drinkopedia Podcast.
We're a bad education podcast that's like drunk history for the full curriculum.
We have new episodes every Thursday, and you can find us on most major podcast platforms.
Join us at the bar and follow us on Twitter at Drinkopedia Pod.
Hi, this is Michael. Guess what I have done? I've taken the plunge and started a Patreon account. Why? Because producing a podcast can be quite costly, and frankly, I need the help paying all the fees for things like my domain, website, podcast hosting, Zoom, and other costs. Please consider helping me out with these expenses by committing to one of the pay tiers on my Patreon account. Just go to patreon.com/inacitylikeyours. That's patreon.com/INACITYLIKEYOURS, all one word, and pledge. If you do, I'll be sure to give you a shout out on this podcast. Thank you.
Okay, hello. This is Jeffrey Voorhees, or I just go with Jeff. So this is Jeff Voorhees. Oh, I was Alex Kintner in the movie Jaws back in the 70s. And I just figured I've also lately on Facebook and everything are doing some signings known as the Dead Alex Kintner. And I was just at a Halloween signing, the Dead Alex K. But with the name Voorhees, you think of Jason Voorhees, but we'll stick with Jaws. So anyway, when I was around 12 years old, I just moved up to an island in Massachusetts, Martha's Vineyard. And this is a famous island. You had everyone from, the John F. Kennedy and Teddy Kennedy, the Dyke Bridge, and Jaws was filmed here. You got Diane Sawyer has a house here, David Letterman. A lot of big names on the island. It's an expensive island here up in the Northeast. But I moved up here. It was a lot different back in the 70s. And we had just moved up from Connecticut. That's why I'm a Yankees fan still up here in Massachusetts. Sorry. But anyway, so we moved up here to Martha's Vineyard when I was just 11 or 12. And right the year we got here was fun because, it's a small island. Back then it was tiny, as in it's a madhouse this time of the year. The population in the summer is crazy. But back then, it would die right on Labor Day. But back then, first spring, we get here, lived right in Edgartown. That's where this big hotel that's open year round. They were going to film a movie here. And Universal Studios, they had a bunch of rooms at this hotel in Edgartown on Martha's Vineyard or Amity Island, same thing, where they said they're going to need a lot of extras in this movie Jaws about a shark. And so we just lived maybe a 5-minute walk from this hotel because it's a small island where we lived right in this one of the towns, Edgartown, on Amity or Martha's Vineyard. And we said, okay, let's go sign up. And, 12 years old, we go down, sign up to be extras in the movie because they said they were going to pay you $40 a day just to be an extra in the movie. And back in the 70s, $40 a day was a lot of money. So we all signed up and, you go in, fill out paper, do all that. And they said, okay, everyone, we'll call you when the days we're going to film. Because if you remember the movie, you just see little parades or people on beaches. A lot of those faces you recognize, doctors, not the big actors, but a lot of the faces in the movie, you recognize a lot of them. So it was fun making it. So we all signed up and they said, yeah, we could be in it. We're going to get money. And then a couple days later, got a call. And a friend of mine, a few of us got a call back down. They said, okay, come on in. And we thought it was just about being extras. And they just held up a piece of paper and said, read a line or two off of this. And it's like, to be an extra? Okay. And read a line or two. And then all of a sudden they go, okay, you know what? We're going to give you a speaking part, and so you'll get 140 a day. And so it's like 140. Oh, that's pretty good. So got a speaking part, and it was fun because I laughed at a bunch of friends saying, you guys make $40 a day. I get 140. That's pretty good when you're 12. And when they first started filming it, it was fun because, just seeing them set up all the cameras all over the island. And, they would, before I die in the movie, before I was eaten by Jaws, there was a parade, if you remember the movie at all, where there's a little band. It was the Edgartown Drum and Bugle, and I was in that at that age. And at first they weren't going to let me be in that scene because they said, no, you die and you're not. And then they said, wait a minute, you're not even dead yet in the movie, so you could be in that. So I'm in that little parade with the drums going down the street. I only got $40 a day for that one. But so anyway, after that, it was fun because they said, okay, now we're going to do your scene. And they set up all these little fake beach houses right down on a beach where I still walk my dogs. It's, a 5-minute ride from my house here. And so I was just down on that beach today running St. Bernard and Bernese Mountain Dog and the 2 dogs down there right where I died. And they set up these little beach houses, if you remember the movie, and they're all fake and it looked real. And so you're on the other side, and where the shark goes under the bridge, it's called the Edgartown Oak Bluffs Bridge. That's where they filmed my scene. And when they were filming it, it's in May. And if you know New England up here at all, I don't like going in that water till like July or August even, because it's cold water. May is like it takes forever for this water to warm up. So basically they were like, okay, they got me down on the beach and they said, we're going to ask you to go in the water. And, I still get the question now. People are like, oh, were you afraid of the shark? No, I was afraid to go in that freezing cold water, because that water, it's cold that time of the year. So we get down there and didn't know how they were going to do all this. And they basically fill you in. Okay, you're going to ask your mother to go back in the water and then beg her. And then if you remember, I say, can I go back in the water? And she, let me look at your hands. Oh, your hands are pruned. And I kind of beg her and please. And she finally lets me go in. And when they were filming it, though, they said, okay, cut. After I said, can I go in? And she says, go ahead for a little longer. It's a cut. And then they filled you in on what they were going to do. They said, okay, here's a raft. And you're in shorts. The air was cold. The water was freezing. And they go, you're going to swim out like, maybe 100 yards. And we have this machine. And it was, the size of a trash can, the top of it. And it was like a big funnel. And they said, you're going to swim out to this thing here. And you couldn't really see it from the shore because it was like right at the top of the water. And you're going to swim your raft out to it. And then we'll say cut. And this thing that I was swimming out to was full of blood. And that was going to blow way up in the air, if you remember. Blood flying everywhere. And so I start swimming out, and then I get out near this thing. They say cut. And then they had another raft that was cut in half, and they put it on top of this thing full of blood. And then they were like, okay, now we're going to ask you to lie on top of this. And then we'll say roll. And Spielberg, and it's one of his first movies. So he was trying to do everything by the book. You do one little thing wrong, it was cut, and they tried it again. And so he goes, now that you're lying on top of this thing, and when it explodes, go into water and stand there as long as you can. And now you're saying to yourself, you're 12 years old, freezing cold in the water. When this thing blows up blood, go into water there and stand there. It's like, oh no, here we go. Okay. So I wasn't afraid of a shark coming. I'm afraid of blood blowing up, going underwater, freezing my, what off. And so basically, you don't hear it filming it where you hear dun-dun, but I'm lying there a little nervous with even not hearing the dun in the background. And then all of a sudden, swim out, lying on top of this. He says roll, and then a minute later, all of a sudden, bam, this thing blows up and blood is flying way up in the air. It's your head's flying up in the air because it's blowing up so hard. And then it's like, okay, I got to go underwater. Went under and was holding on to this machine under there, trying to stay under as long as I could. And then after that part, I came up, swam ashore quickly, and you could almost walk. It wasn't that deep. And freezing cold, I go, okay, are we all done now? It's like, and they give you a towel, and they were like, oh, bad news. Spielberg was like, your leg was out of the water. We got to have to do it again. And so I got a speaking part. So they had these little dressing rooms for anyone, Screen Actors Guild, they have to be in. Then they make sure you're treated right. So I messed up on the first one, and it would take 7.5 hours for all the blood to clear out of the water before they could do it again. So all my friends are freezing cold out there because I messed up, and I go into a nice warm dressing room, sit back for a few hours and wait for the blood to clear. And then they would try it again. And then the next time, oh, your leg was out, your arm was out. And, the movie was just costing them a lot more than they expected. And just like this little scene that you saw me in, that took 5 days. And then because arm was out or leg was out, and they're like, stay under longer. And then finally, when the fifth day came, and they said, this time we got 2 guys in wetsuits. And they're going to, when that thing blows up, they're going to be underwater with air tanks. And they're going to lift you up and down a few times, then pull you under and give you air. So it's like, okay, so you're lying on it. This time, blood flying everywhere. You're used to that. It's the cold water. That's no big deal. But this time, all of a sudden, if you remember the movie, you see me going up and down, thinking the shark had me. It's 2 guys in wetsuits holding on to one leg each, lifting me up and down. and then they pull you underwater and give you an air hose, and you just breathe in air with them under there, which was fun. You know, they're right there with you. And so there it was. We finally got it done in 5 days, and then we went ashore. But the rest of the movie they filmed down there, and you know, they would have little scenes where, I think where they say they had a shark hanging up, and they said, we're going to cut open the shark, we got it. And they said, no, we don't want the Kintner boy to spill out all over the dock. And you know, we're not in the movie then, but you go over there and be watching it. And that time of the year, you don't get sharks around here too much. So they ended up shipping that thing that was hanging up in the movie there from Florida. And back then, they don't just put it on a plane on frozen ice, and they put it in the back of a truck and drove up with that thing. And it stunk so bad when they were filming it down there. So when they're, you know, we were walking out to watch some of it a mile away, and you could smell that shark. And everyone's like, oh, they just caught the shark. No, that was a nasty, rotten shark hanging up there. And the Kintner boy didn't spill out. I was watching it, but, well, I guess that shark didn't get me. I was still there. But, you know, that part, and there was lots of other little things that were fun because you're a little kid, and, you know, Richard Dreyfuss, Robert Shaw, Roy Schneider, they were all really nice. Well, not one of them wasn't really nice because, you know, they would have cookouts and baseball games and stuff because, you know, Spielberg, he used to do with this, and it's a little island. They got all these kids and people in it, so they would have like these little cookouts and baseball games, and you get Richard Dreyfuss out there. He'd be, you know, he was a great guy. He talking to you, doing whatever. And then one time, you know, they're down near a baseball game. It's like 2 PM. We're little kids. It's like, oh, there he is. That's Robert Shaw over there. And like you go running over to him, and he was just like in the movie because you get over there, and it's like, oh, how's it going? And you could tell he had a couple drinks in him already in the afternoon, and he sounded just like in the movie. It's like you're asking him how he's doing. He's like, get away from me, you little blank blank. It starts with the SH. And he sounded just like in the movie, but that was him in real life. And we knew that he didn't want us near him. So that just begged him. We were just like, okay, we got to go back and do it again. So every time we saw him, we run over, and he's like, get away from me, you little crap. And so it was just, that part was fun. But then they would have lots of little things where, you know, they had those, if you remember the movie, the shark's name, the mechanical shark was named Bruce. And I lived right in the town. They had this yacht club. The yacht club had a warehouse where they stored boats and stuff. And that was just a couple streets down from where we were living. And back then it wasn't so strict on security and cameras, because we used to go over where they stored the shark at night with flashlights and break in and climb all over the shark. It's like, oh, there's Bruce. And it looked so real on one side because they had 3 different sharks: the left side, the right side, and the top, meaning the right side looked like a shark, but the other side of that was all mechanics. And then the left side looked like a shark, and the right side of that one was all mechanics. And then the top looked like, the whole top of it looked real, but the whole underneath was mechanics. So it was all supposedly the same shark, but only one side looked like a real shark. And we used to go on there and climb all over it and just have a good time. And I just did a signing down at a shark tournament down in Florida, and Field and Stream, the magazine, was like, oh, you were eaten by a shark, and we have the lady that died, Susan, before you, and we wonder if you can come down and do a signing at the shark tournament. So I did that a couple months ago. And the funny part with that was that Susan, the lady that died before me, and then me, because they wanted us down there at the shark tournament, but the person that made the shark, he was there too. And like all the other signings, you just sign pictures and that's it. But this one, Field and Stream, you have to go up and stage, and they give you a microphone. They ask you questions. And just the funny part I'm bringing this up is because when we were little kids, when they were making it, they were talking to the man that made that shark, and they were asking him the questions first, and he would be saying, oh yeah, we had so many problems with that shark, and sometimes it didn't work, and a lot of times it would just break down. And when he was done talking, I got the microphone, and, you know, this movie was 45 years ago next year. And that's where it's like, okay, I'm going to have fun with this. And And I said, oh, well, you had problems with that shark. Yes, but I was just a little kid, but I hate to tell you, we used to break in to where you guys stored that thing all the time, a couple times a week, and climb all over that thing. We'd be on top of your machine. Maybe that's why it didn't work. And it's funny, you could joke about it now. And he didn't have a real big smile on his face when I said that, but that was just, one of the other funny parts about it. But besides that, getting back up on the Vineyard or Amity, the movie, when it first came out, it's like back before Jaws, you would have, the horror movies then were, King Kong, Godzilla, Planet of the Apes. So this one, this brought, a lot of people remember this movie because it's a first really gory movie. And like the scene where I died, they had the mechanical shark. They tried two different ways. The way that they actually did it, where I was going up and down. But the one they tried before, they had a little dummy on a raft that kind of looked like me a little. You didn't see a close-up of it, and the shark's name, the mechanical one, Bruce, comes up and grabs a hold of the raft and the mannequin, and blood and parts were flying everywhere. And back in the 70s, that was a little too hardcore for him. For some little kid, nowadays, that would be nothing. You go watch that on a cartoon. But back in the 70s, that was too much. Spielberg was like, no, we'll go do this other one where you don't really see, limbs flying off. So that's how they decided, okay, the real gory one we'll leave out. And they still have pictures of that shark. And in some of the old photos, people bring them to some of these signings, and it's like, oh, there it is. So filming it and all that was fun. And then when it was all said and done, it was fun. You go watch the movie the first time it came out, and then basically, if you know the island at all, it was odd because you'd be driving down a road where I died. It's called State Beach, and they call it the bend in the road. You take a hard turn and you're in Edgartown, this fancy town on the island. And so when you take that hard turn, when Brody's driving towards Edgartown, that's where it should be. You go around the corner and all of a sudden, welcome to Amity, if you remember the movie, a big sign, Amity Island, welcome to, and that's not in Edgartown. All of a sudden you go around the corner and you're up on the other side of the island. It's called Gay Head. So or the parade that you're going up, it's a one-way street, but the parade's going the wrong way. So just lots of little things were fun watching the movie. It's like, because the island, it's like, there's the doctor that checks out the morgue and all that. He's like, that was my doctor. So it was fun with all that. And then, Jaws was over then, and then a year or two later, they came back down, and they weren't going to do the whole thing down on the island here, but they had to do some of it to keep it going. And we all signed up again. So we all went down, signed up. This is a few years later, and they get to me, and they read the name, and they go, what? They go, you can't be in this movie. I'm like, why not? They're going, because you died in the first movie. I go, I'm older. I look different now. And they were like, no, if media ever found out about it, you ruined the movie. It's like, my head went down, walked away. All my friends were in the second one. I couldn't be in that. My acting days, I died years ago, I guess. And then, that was the end of Jaws at that part. And then a few years later, which is funny because never knew about royalties and things like that. And the first time it came on TV, because you have to sign up with Screen Actors Guild, it's like first time it came on TV, it's like something comes in the mail. I had no idea. And you open it up, it's like $16,000. It's like, whoa. It's like, so I never knew about that. And like, even up to this date, it's not much. It's just, 100 here or there. My brother lives over in Spain, over in Valencia. And I get a little message from him on a text saying, good news, you just died on TV over here, meaning a couple bucks. So, and then some of these signings and stuff, it's fun. I always laugh and just say, it pays to die. So, because we came out with a T-shirt that down at a bar and a restaurant, we had the Alex Kintner burger going for a while. And then this one, it says the Kintner boy still alive at the wharf, and you have the whole Jaws with the big shark, and then the little Kintner boy. And the guy that made the shirt years ago, he goes, I updated it, and he made a new one. I go, that looks more like it, because if you see me now, I don't have nearly as much hair as I did back then, 45 years ago. But you get people, he said, I'm going to put it on Facebook. And he put it on Facebook. I go, I'm not going to this little post office here. And it's unreal. The other day, 2 in Germany, 1 in Denmark, 1 in Canada, 1 in Texas. And it's like, here you go mail them. I'll sign them, but you go mail them. Because you get some real Jaws fanatics out there that they'll travel from all over the place or do whatever they can to get parts of it. Because it's funny, one of the signings I did down in New York, one guy, he made coins. It said Bruce, and it had the shark. It's the size of a silver dollar, and he just wanted me to sign the coin. And he made all these coins. And then this one lady, a reward for the Kintner boy, the shark that killed the Kintner boy 3, and she had this whole sign that she made and just had to sign that. And then there's the barrels in the movie, those big yellow barrels. This one guy, he comes up, and those are heavy, and it was signed by almost everyone in the movie. And he was like, you're one of the only ones, because I never used to do the signings, and I just started doing it a few years ago. And he's like, you're one of the only ones that hasn't signed it yet. And it's like, you see Richard Dreyfuss, almost everyone in the movie had signed it. And then finally I go to sign it, and I go, yeah, there you go. You're going to go put it back in the car now? He's like, no, somebody will steal it. He was like paranoid. He just carried it around, this big barrel, the rest of the day. And then some other guy, he came up, unlocks his briefcase. It was a combination, like 3 numbers on each side. Opens it up, his briefcase, and he had the 7 little pieces of the raft after I got eaten. And they're looking around for the Kintner boy, and all of a sudden you see pieces of the raft float up. He got a hold of those 3 pieces, or 7 pieces, and he wanted me to sign each one. So you get some real people, real Jaws fanatics. There's one Harley Davidson rider came into the restaurant a few years ago. And the waitress was like, he wants to show you something. And I go down, and he pulls the sleeve up. Leather jacket comes off, pulls the sleeve up. The whole Jaws logo is tattooed on his arm. And then underneath, Richard Dreyfuss, Robert Shaw, Roy Schneider. And down near the elbow, even my name was on the guy's arm. And so you got some that are really into it. This girl in New York where I was doing the signing, she's like, can you sign right under the collarbone? I'm like, yeah, for $40, it's just going to come off in a couple days. And she's like, no, I'm meeting up with Peter later. He's tattooing over it. So it's like, okay. But then the other funny parts are like some real Jaws fanatics. If that's on TV nowadays, you still get a royalty check from Screen Actors Guild. So you get a check, and it's just like the top part will say Universal Studios, your name, the amount, the date, all that. You rip that part off, sign it, cash it. The other one, you just throw away. And the other one will say all the information. It will say Universal Studios, the amount of the check, how much taxes, union dues, Screen Actors Guild, what movie. So we'll say Jaws, the network it was shown on. And in the restaurant last year, these people from England came in. And the waitress, like, they have something in a picture frame they want you to sign. I thought it was a photo of me dying or something. And I go out and I look at it, and it's like, what is this? And then something I threw in the trash. It said Jaws, CBS. And it was like 1987, Jeff Voorhees, my address, the last 4 of the Social Security, the amount of the check, how much Uncle Sam gets. And something I threw away in 1987, I go, where the hell did you get this? Something I threw in the trash back in the 80s. And the lady's like, oh, well, we got it on eBay on an auction. It's like, someone picked up my trash years ago and held on to it this long and sold it on eBay. I go, how much you pay for this thing? And they paid $8,700 for a check stub that I threw away years ago. So I don't throw them away anymore. I got a desk full of them. It's just funny that some people will go way overboard for that. And then other little things are funny because Cameo, this thing where stars, football players, movie stars, all these things, you get so many people will come down to Martha's Vineyard or Amity, where I still am, and they get so upset if I'm not here. Like these people from England came all the way over a couple weeks ago, and someone I know finally convinced me to get on to this Cameo where you go and you pick out an actor or someone and you tell them what you want to say, and then you talk to your phone and you say, oh, like this lady, I got it the other day. It was like, oh, my nephew has a costume, an Alex Kintner Halloween costume in it. And take a look at that on Facebook and tell them what you think. And I go, okay. And so this is one of the first ones I did. So I was like, went down to the bridge where I run my dogs, right where I died. And I said, oh, okay, here you go. That's a costume I saw you, Alex Kintner. That looks really good, but be careful because see the water behind me? I'm standing there with my phone just telling this young gentleman his Alex Kintner Halloween costume looked good, but I was telling him, don't go in this water because the sharks, you're going to be eaten by a shark in that costume. And I just showed him the bridge where the shark goes through because it's right there, and sent it back to these people. And then you get a reply, and the guy in charge of it was like, oh, that's unreal that you did that. It's like most of these people that do this, they just sit in the living room and say, happy birthday, your costume looks good and that. And then another one, someone's birthday the other day, it was like, you know, that little Chappie, it's called a Chappie ferry, a little ferry where the boat takes 3 cars across, and that's where Brody was saying, oh, we got to close the beaches. And they're like, we can't close the beaches. This is a busy time of the year. And this is right before I died. And the other day, someone it was their son, his birthday, and he was down in Australia. So I decided, oh, it's like a 3-minute walk from the restaurant that we run, the Wharf Pub. And I'll go over to the Chappie Ferry and have that in the background and say happy birthday. It's like, here's that boat. If they had listened to Brody when he said close the beaches, I might still be alive, but there's the boat. And people like that because they remember that little boat in the movie, and I'm still on the island, so it's, you know, it's fun just doing all that because a lot of little things, like if you remember that dog that died in the movie, Pippin. And I have a big one, and they have these little rules here on Amity or Martha's Vineyard. They have little signs up that say no dogs on the beach from May 15th to September 1st. And I run the dogs out on the beach early in the morning. No one's there, but they have this thing called Islanders Chat, and people will send a picture in, and it will go on this thing on the internet saying, if someone parks wrong, they'll take a picture of the tire over the line, and they put all this stuff up there. And this old guy's filming me with the big St. Bernard running down the beach, and I'm waving. I knew he was mad because I had a dog on the beach. And then finally I head into work. It's like, oh, I saw you on the Islanders Chat. It's like, what are you talking about? We pull it up, and this guy's filming me, and I knew he was mad. So it's showing me waving at him, a big St. Bernard, and I'm just waving. He's saying, this guy's breaking the rule. He's on the beach where you're not allowed to be this time of the year. And then all of a sudden, people started replying. And there were so many. This guy, he didn't know what he got into because I'm still on the island. I know a lot of people. And they're like, you idiot. Ghosts are allowed on the beach. That's Pippin and Alex Kintner. They died there years ago. That's just the ghosts. And it just picked up. Everyone's like, you idiot. Ghosts are allowed on the beach. Show me a rule saying no Alex Kintner or Pippin ghosts allowed. And after like a whole week of everyone just saying, oh, ghosts, they were killed by a shark, or that's just shark waste washing the shore you're filming. And he finally just took it off. So just little things about Jaws. It's still on the island here. And you even get like Islander tours Jaws tours. People come down from all over the place just view where they filmed the movie and all the little scenes. And you know, this one guy, he comes back every year. He's really nice, and he comes down with like 2 or 3 different people every year, and he's like, I meet him up at the bridge where I died. It's just down the street from where I live, and he always wants to get a couple photos, and he brings some different friends, and we do it once a year, and he just slides me $500. And so just all these little things, and you know, it pays to die. And other little things, you know, last summer, my neighbor, he said, oh, you know, the New York City Police Department's been over your house a couple times. And I'm thinking, what the hell? I'm like, something I did in college? I go, stealing a flag? What is this? And finally the guy comes, he pulls in, and he's like, I'm really sorry to bother you here. The internet nowadays, they can find you anywhere. And he's like, I'm a big Jaws fan. And he had like 20 different pictures And I was like, summer, I'm busy, I'm tired. It's like, okay, I'll just sign them. And so we go inside, and he goes, oh, and I run a department in New York, the police dogs, and he had a t-shirt with the German Shepherd and all the drug enforcement dogs in the force. And it's like, I'm not a big t-shirt person, but it's like, oh, okay. And I just throw that on the table. And then he, after signing the pictures, he slides a few dollars over. I'm like, oh, $20 or something. And I go, yeah, don't worry. And he goes, no, I'll take it. And I look down, I see, that's not a 20, that's 100. And I kind of push it under the t-shirt, and he left, and I, 1, 2, 3. It's like he left like $500. So as I said earlier, it pays to die. But besides that, you know, a lot of little different things over the years with, you know, people. You would have Obama and Clinton, they come down to the islands all the time. And when they were coming down, you would have Good Morning America and things like that down on the island. And one time, Good Morning America said, oh, we got Lee Fierro, who was my mother in the movie, to do a interview with Good Morning America, and wonder if you could do it with her. And so she was in it. So it's like, oh, yeah, we'll do it. And we went down, and they had to help her down the beach. This is like Obama's last year, so like 3 years ago. They would come down every summer, and all these news medias would try to get whatever they could. You know, they're here for a couple of weeks. And then when we got down on the beach, and they were asking me a bunch of questions, you know, like we've been talking about. And then they got to her, and then one of the questions they said to her, they go, so over the years, we hear people ask you to slap them in the face a lot, like you did in the movie. And she was like, oh, yeah, for years, people would ask me, but like after 10 years, I just finally said, no, I'm not doing it anymore. And so she wouldn't slap people in the face anymore after that. And then I kind of interrupted a little, and I said, excuse me, you're my mother, well, in the movie, and I'm going to ask, can you slap me in the face? Come on, Mom. And the guy behind the camera is shaking his head, yes, yes. And she goes, what? I go, come on, slap me. And she goes, okay. And she gives me a little slap. And I go, no, like in the movie. And she gave me one just like in the movie. And when it was all done, the guy was like, oh, we only have like 1.5 minutes tomorrow, and they're probably not going to have that part, but that'll be on the internet. They like that part. And because she was a sweet lady. And the restaurant where we used to have this, the Wharf Pub, we used to have the Alex Kintner burger for years. And I heard some ladies pointing at it, saying that, and it's like, and it was in the spring, so there were only like 4 tables out there. And I saw, wait, that's Lee Fierro, my mother in the movie. I told the waitress I got this table. It was just her and her friend. I didn't know who the friend was or anyone else in the restaurant. And so I went down, I go, oh, hello, ladies. And she recognized me, but she didn't say anything. She knew I was just playing around a little. And I went up, I go, okay, let's see. Let's get some drinks going here. And then I just stopped. I go to Lee. Her friend's looking at me, and some other people see me. And I go, I'm going to ask you a really personal, odd question. And if you think it's a little obscene, just tell me to go away. And I'll just leave it alone. And she's like, what? And her friend looks at me like I'm a nut. And another table heard me, and they're all looking over. I go, do you believe in reincarnation? Because I think I died years ago, and you look like my mother in my previous life. And her friend looks at me like I'm crazy, and these other people they're all just staring over then. And all of a sudden, she's about to answer. Her friend probably thought she's going to say, go away, you nut. And she goes, oh my God, I had a son that died back in the 70s. And I go, so you had a son that died? I go, I think I died like back in mid-70s. She goes, my son was killed back then. I go, I think I kind of vanished out at sea. She goes, were you killed? I go, I think I was eaten. She goes, was it a shark? I go, I think it might have been what she gets up and she goes, you're my son. And she hugs me. And finally she goes to her friend, hey, we were in that movie years ago. And her friend was about to have a heart attack. And they just thought it was funny that they went along with it. They thought we were serious. Like, these two nuts, reincarnation, and my mother and my son died. But that was fun. Just little things like that. And you know, down in Florida, I was just doing that signing with the first lady that died. The 2 people, So you still run into some of these people, and this upcoming year, it should be interesting because I never used to do these signings, but they're fun because like the ones, I just did one out in Worcester, and every year there's always something around Halloween. They want people from horror movies. And the one in Worcester, right next to you have the people in Texas Chainsaw or Friday the 13th. And some of the ladies are like, you get a lot of people, and we're real actresses in these movies, and you're in there for like a minute. It's like, oh yeah, people like the dead Alex Kintner. But the signings next year, these few people I was talking to are like, that do it, they're like, next year is the 45th anniversary. It might be a big year. And they're going, and there's some of these people know everything. They're like, there's only like, I think he said 7 or 8 of you still alive that were in the movie. He's, well, we're going to try to get a bunch of the Jaws people next year for the 45th anniversary. It's like, oh, and I like told them I'll do it 3 or 4 times a year. So next year it should be interesting, especially if they got a few, because I've done it with just Susan a couple of times, and usually you're by yourself because there's not too many Jaws, people from Jaws doing the signings. Richard Dreyfuss, he did it down in New York the year before me. I did it last Halloween down there, and he had done it the one before. And so when I did one at the Shark Tournament in Florida, they had him down there. They would just show me some of his pictures signed. So you still get some people, some Jaws signers, but you do get a lot of people that goes up to the Jaws tables for the signing, so it's fun, and they fly you around, and it's a nice getaway. So
at these signings, do you sign a photo of yourself as a child or adult?
Oh, it's like this one, and well, you go with nothing. They fly you there, and they will say Jeff Voorhees, the big name up on the wall, and then it would say Alex Kintner, Jaws, and they'd show me, little red bathing suit walking, bone thin, a little kid, and then on the raft up on the sign, and then on the table, they would have, like 20 different photos. One would be the big one, they would charge more, the whole Jaws poster, and that was like $60, or all the other ones, 40s, these little pictures. One would be me swimming out on the raft. One would be you see a shark under the raft. Some of them they added the shark in there. Another one with the blood flying up in the air and me going, that was like one of the hot items with the blood everywhere. And they would have, me swimming out on the raft, and me, how I'm on the beach, and she says, let me look at your hand. So you see Lee Fierro, my mother in the movie, and me with my hand out, it would show one I like. It was like clips. It was me, it would be 8 different photos on one clip. Me asking if I can go in the water, me going in the water, and then the bottom one's the shark getting closer and closer, and then the blood going everywhere. So, 20 different photos, and they're not of me as an adult because, especially, 45 years ago, I was only 12 years old. I'm a little bit older now. I'm not a little kid on the raft anymore. But almost all those photos of me are in the movie.
Lee was fabulous in such a short part, too. I remember that scene vividly. I remember yours, too, of course. But I just thought it interesting that you brought up Lee because that one scene stayed with me for the longest time. I read the book Jaws first and then saw it when it came out in the theater, and I saw it like 6 times in a row. So I fell in love with it. And I'm sure you hear a lot of stories like that from people.
Yeah. And as I said, she was one of the only few, like the lady that I just did the signing, Susan, that dies first. They flew her in from California just for it. She was here for just a couple days, but Lee Fierro, she just left the island like a year or 2 ago because she's really getting older, and then her family took her off. But she did plays and little things on the island for years, and she was from the island too. And like the sheriff's kids, the little guy, I didn't really know him, but the older son, his name was Chris Rubello. We were good friends in high school and stuff. And one of the people that, if you remember the movie, 2 kids with a fake fin, that they thought it was a shark coming, and then the 2 people come up, oh, he made me do it, and it's 2 little kids with a fake fin. The older one, he's still on the island. He's one of the Edgartown police force. He's a policeman. So it's funny. It's like people would come down. It's like, I point over to the, see that guy there? He's the one with the fake fin. So but there's not too many around, but there's still a few. But Lee Farrell, she was a sweetie. I mean, I would bump into her, and back in the movie, it's like your hands are pruned, and then later down the road, it's like, oh, here, let me buy you a glass of wine and sit down and have a beer or wine with her once in a while. She's known as what they call Islanders. I'm not really an Islander. You're only an Islander if you're born on the island. I moved up from. I always joke and say, yeah, I'm an Islander. And people, oh, you were born on the island? And me, it's Long Island, because I came up from Connecticut, but I was born on Long Island. But besides that, yeah, Lee Farrell, she was sweet.
Did you do any other films?
No, I was just, I signed up for Jaws 2. They wouldn't let me be in it. And then they used the clips in a lot of different movies, but I wasn't really an actor. And, I was just here on Martha's Vineyard, just moved here. They were making a movie and had fun doing it. And as I said, over the years, it's more entertaining now, because just a lot of signings and, some guy that wrote a book, they flew you down, they fly you places to go sign the books with them and stuff like that. It's just little things. At first, I used to hide from it all for years on end, but then it's like, you know what? It's fun. You fly down to New York, they fly you down there, they give you a hotel room, you make a little extra money, and you meet all these other people, real actors and stuff. I'm in the movie for a minute or two, and you get people possessed with. They know the place the Wharf Pub and Restaurant. You got this other guy that runs it with me. His name's Will Coogan, and he was out in California for like 10 years in a lot of movies. He'd be in it for, he would have a name. He'd be in the movie, not the star of the show, but someone that's in a lot of them for a bit. And people would come into the Wharf in the summer. You get a lot of people who come in, and some would come in with the yellow raft, or they come in and say, oh, it's Jeff Voorhees, Alex Kintner here. And he's like, it's his day off. But I was in this movie, this movie, this movie. He named like 5 different movies. He goes, you want me to sign something for you? And they're like, no. And they just turn around and walk out of the building. And he's like, you're in a movie for like 2 seconds, and you get these people from all over the world coming and just trying to get an autograph from the dead Alex Kintner.
Well, it was definitely a phenomenon. I mean, that was, like you said before, it was one of the first gory films.
Yeah, no, and that's why I think people just remember that. And you would get, like, the other day, some people were in the restaurant, and it's not just the older ones. Some of their father, his daughter and son were like all into it. And we were talking about the movies and where they filmed it, and they're like, oh, so how are you still alive? It's like, it's just a movie, but even the younger generation, they get into that movie. They like it.